This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Tonight, the Democrats' impeachment derangement. Backed by popular demand, Daniel Greenfield, the editor of the blog The Point at frontpagemag.com, and a Shillman Fellow at the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Daniel, what an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to have you back.
The honor, the privilege, and the pleasure is all mine. I just wish the occasion were better.
Absolutely. Now, we know that the Trump, everything that's happening with the attack on our president, very, very serious. We've got to get to this important matter. But some would argue just as important is the fact that you are not wearing your hat this evening. Give us 30 seconds on that.
Well, I figured that as popular as the hat is, by refusing to wear it until the entire impeachment nonsense ends, I can completely change the tenor of the debate, because I think there's just going to be a massive outcry demanding that the hat come back, and Nancy Pelosi is going to do the right thing. I don't doubt it.
Okay. Daniel, at your blog, The Point, you made a very interesting observation. You said there might be a possibility that to some degree Trump may have wanted or may want the Dems to push on some levels towards impeachment. You know, we're not really sure, but let's just say hypothetically that he's setting a trap. You believe that this is successful in some regards, in the sense that they have fallen into a trap. You see this as a very bad thing for the Democrats to be doing for themselves, right?
Well, we're going to find out for sure in the election. But right now, when you look at the public polling, the public basically thinks that what the House Democrats are mostly doing is trying to get Trump. Impeachment locks them into that. It means they're not really going to have the space to tackle any bread and butter issues. Forget about the stuff people actually want them to tackle. Healthcare, the economy, all that stuff, not happening. That's all going to be about investigating Trump, and not even investigating Trump over something anybody understands. How many Americans even know what the Ukraine is? Let alone can find it on a map. So this forces them into obsessing over a scandal that, again, most Americans are not even going to understand, that people are going to look at this and say, what are these people actually doing for us? Now, there's a slice of the Democrat Party that absolutely wants to get Trump, that doesn't care about anything else. But even among the Democrats, the majority want them to deliver on particular issues. With the House just obsessed with destroying Trump, that's going to hurt their credibility. Meanwhile, it's going to push up turnout for Republicans, because before this, Trump didn't really have a killer pitch to voters to turn out. Now with impeachment, he's actually going to have a killer pitch, which is going to affect races in the House and the Senate also. Meanwhile, the Democrats already had a great turnout plan, which was hating Trump. Impeachment really doesn't build on that very much. It does more to benefit Republican turnout than Democrat turnout.
Right. You know, Daniel, it's just incredible to just actually stand back and to watch this derangement, because the Democrats, they're just going from issue to issue. It'd be very interesting to say, what do you think he can't be impeached for? You know, the Russia, he was supposed to be impeached for Russia. Now they wake up, oh, it's the Ukraine. They're just grasping at straws in a very, very pathological way. Now, let's, just even with the time we have, I wish, this would take 10 hours. So we're just going to try our best to get to some of the key issues here. But this quote unquote whistleblower, look, all of this is strange. Every part of this is strange. The whistleblower is strange in the sense that it's some CIA guy that's a Dems supporter, and he also even didn't hear this telephone call. He heard that somebody said something to somebody else. This is bizarre.
It's not exactly a big surprise, because we've seen this again. We've seen the show again. They pulled the exact same thing with the Steele report, except that time it was an ex-MI6 guy. Now it's a CIA guy. Third time around, they might actually have somebody for the French Sûreté. And instead of actually Russia, the Ukraine, next time around might be Hungary or Poland or whichever former Soviet bloc country they hit with a dart that they throw at a map of the world or a globe of the world. The bottom line is they pulled the same thing again, same elements, intelligence guy, Clinton lawyers, largely hearsay, pipeline through the government. Basically the same accusation, except last time around it was Russia. This time it's the Ukraine. These countries don't even actually get along with each other. But at the same time, they don't actually know, they don't actually care. They're just dedicated to pushing the same smear. Now, the significance of the smear, the common denominator of the whole, whether it's Russia, the Ukraine, is again, licensing their ability to use intelligence resources by making this a counterintelligence issue, by claiming that Trump is being connected with other countries elsewhere, and that actually licenses them to do all the Watergate stuff. That's what this is always really about. When they can actually accuse Trump of having dealings with foreign countries, then they can actually get out the intelligence resources, and they can actually treat the political opposition like it's an enemy intelligence agency.
Okay. Now, thank you, Daniel. So now this whole Biden's son, Hunter, very, very strange. Let's just try to touch on this a bit. So Biden has a son, Hunter, who's hired by this Ukrainian gas company, Burisma Holdings, in 2014. Why would this Ukrainian gas company want Hunter on their board or whatever he was doing?
Well, Hunter was a very talented and brilliant young man with a history of drug problems and emotional problems and other issues, which of course made him very appealing. And, you know, he knows a whole lot about the energy industry, just like James Biden. Joe's brother knows a lot about building houses in Iraq, which is why he got a $1.5 billion contract to build houses in Iraq. And now he actually knows a whole lot about cancer. Now that Joe Biden moved into cancer, he actually is now pitching his brother's thing to pharmaceutical companies, because you know, when you're a member of the Biden family, you are immediately an expert in every single possible industry, and companies from around the world rush to put money in your hands because, of course, just having the last name Biden and the possibility that your father, brother, or somebody will actually become president of the United States means immediately you are an absolute genius, and they will actually pay you $50,000 a month because your last name is Biden. This is a great job, and actually, as a result, I'm planning to change my name to Daniel Biden.
Okay, so look, he makes a lot of, Hunter Biden makes a lot of money. I think he walked away with a lot of money, but there was a lot of corruption at this company, and this prosecutor, Victor Shokin, started investigating the corruption in this company that Hunter was involved with. And then all of a sudden, this prosecutor is fired in 2016, but Biden himself bragged, am I correct, that he had this prosecutor fired? And now the prosecutor has come forward basically saying that he was fired because of Biden. Something doesn't seem right here, does it?
Well, you know, the Bidens make the Clintons seem like devious criminal masterminds because, you know, at least the Clintons would do this quietly. Biden brags about getting this guy fired, about abusing his authority as vice president of the United States to get this guy fired. And yes, this guy was investigating a company, which, by the way, of course, was linked to the Yanukovych administration, which itself was linked to Russia. But again, Democrats have absolutely no interest in investigating any of that. And Biden brags about getting this guy who was investigating his son fired because Joe Biden is really awesome and he should completely be president of the United States so that he can actually force other countries to fire anybody who gets in the way of his son or his brother or his cousin's business interests.
So apparently Biden, they were saying that you're not going to get this $1 billion unless this prosecutor's fired. If Biden wasn't doing this for the sake of his son, for what other reason would he be wanting to fire this prosecutor?
Well, it's hard to say. Maybe his brother was involved. The basic reality was that once you had a whole bunch of Russian-aligned interests in control of the energy sector, once you had the Yanukovych government forced out, a whole bunch of U.S. and pro-EU interests got involved, and Hunter Biden seamlessly made the transition from one to the other because Bidens always land on their feet like black cats. But as a result, and so they made the transition from being a Russia-aligned company paying Hunter Biden $50,000 a month to being an EU-aligned company that was paying Hunter Biden $50,000 a month. Again, it is very great to have Biden as your last name, which is why I'm really considering that name change. But in a practical level, Biden was actually pursuing, very obviously, the financial interests of his family, which is what Joe Biden does, because let's face it, until recently, Biden was bankrupt. Biden had absolutely no money. Now he's living in a miniature replica of the White House. Now, where did Biden manage to come by all that money since leaving the White House? Well, having the last name Biden and being the prospective president of the United States really helps open up all sorts of business opportunities not available to you, me, Annie, or, you know, anybody who's not named Biden or Clinton.
So doesn't the president of the United States have a legitimate reason to ask leaders of other countries to look into the criminal behavior of U.S. citizens that are involved in the business of their countries.
You know, the Obama-Biden administration actually set the pattern for this when they were actually using foreign agents to go after Trump back during the election and before the election. So the bottom line is the precedent was set by the Obama-Biden administration, and Biden is now complaining about a precedent that his own administration set.
Okay, now the reason I just keep shaking my head is I love all of your wisdom. It's just that you're unveiling and revealing all of these pathologies, and it's hard to keep a track of all of them. So let's get to the next one. Adam Schiff's fantasies. This is really weird. He's sitting on this intelligence committee or whatever that committee is recently, and he just starts saying he starts saying what he imagines to be in this transcript of the phone call. But what he's saying is actually not in the transcript itself. He's just saying what he wants there to be in the transcript. And he's saying all this stuff. Just this is already, I mean, should he be in a mental hospital? But the mainstream media and the Democrats are going right along with it. It's surreal.
Well, what this really shows is what Trump's people learned from the example of the whole Mueller investigation, the Steele report, and all the stuff, because as I mentioned earlier, this is a repetition of that. So last time around, because so much of the information was classified, the media, Democrats, guys like Adam Schiff were able to invent anything they wanted. This time around, the Trump's people rushed to declassify, make public everything, which meant that Adam Schiff was still playing by the old rules where you could just make up stuff and the media could make up stuff and they could drag it out. And then a year later, we would learn, of course, that all this was made up, because by the old rules, this was exactly how it worked. I mean, remember how many false claims they made about the Mueller report, the Mueller investigation, the Steele report, and so on and so forth, and all the stuff they were promising that they could never deliver. But it took months and in some cases years until everybody found out, of course, that this wasn't happening. By then, most people had taken it for granted. Here, Trump people actually got the information out there really fast. So Adam Schiff was playing by the old rules where you can just paraphrase and make up stuff, and it's going to be months until they actually show that you're a liar. Here, it was actually a liar right out front.
Just so bizarre. Daniel, okay, just wait. Before I forget here and we move on to the other pathologies, do you think Biden is finished in terms of being a candidate for president?
I don't think he's necessarily finished. It's possible that he's going to lose, but it's not definite that he's going to lose. Also, keep in mind, Biden's main source of support are African-American voters. If they decide not to turn on him, he is not finished, and I don't know that they're actually going to turn on him over stuff like this.
Okay, but there is an investigation going, hopefully, into this whole thing with his son in Ukraine and everything, right?
I mean, I don't think there's a U.S. investigation that matters. Ukraine's investigations, it's basically the mafia investigating the mafia. I wouldn't count on anything useful coming out of the Ukraine as far as the investigations go. Basic reality is everybody knows what's been going on here. This is all old stuff in Washington, D.C. Okay. It's the same stuff that the Harry Reid crime family was doing, the Clinton crime family was doing. All these people come in and then they find creative ways of enriching themselves. And, you know, it's Elizabeth Warren, I'm sure, will discover how her entire tribe has found ways to get contracts all across the world.
Okay, so look, Daniel, you have said in your writing that there's not really a case for impeachment. At the same time, we're dealing with Adam Schiff, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Nancy Pelosi, you know, all these, you know, however you want to define them, characters. So I'm sure that they're capable of moving this thing. So let's just take a look at this. Let's say they move it and they try to push this. In the end, it can't really get through the Senate. What do you see happening here?
They're going to have a whole bunch of theater, which is what they really want. They're going to be able to put on a show. They're going to drag Trump and the country through the sewer. And the guys who are the furthest on the left, the guys and the girls who are furthest on the left, are going to get as much TV time as they want. They're going to completely upend the Democrat agenda in the House. They're going to make everything completely about Trump, which is exactly what Pelosi didn't want. Now she knows she's stuck with it, so she's going to do the best that she can to cope with it. The bottom line is this is what's going to happen. It's not actually about successfully impeaching Trump because, again, they don't have the Senate, and there are only so many Mitt Romneys in the Senate on the Republican side. What they're going to do is make everything about Trump, which is what they wanted to do from day one.
Okay. But in general, the public, for impeachment to work, the public has to believe that it's legitimate. And the polls show that the public's not behind this, correct?
The public is not behind this. And the fact is that they've actually picked their weakest position for impeachment before. At least this was stuff you could explain to the public. The supposed affairs, Russia, that's something the public understands at this point. They're dealing with a country most of the public hasn't even heard of. The whole issue drags in Biden's own corruption. None of this really works very well on their terms, but it's an excuse for them to launch an extensive fishing expedition. And they've said it out loud. They don't care what the public thinks. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has gone on TV and said, they know it doesn't matter if the public supports impeachment or not. They don't care what the public thinks. They care what they want to do.
They care what they want to do, which is to destroy Trump and destroy the country, of course, in terms of what the United States really stands for. They've hurt the country in so many ways. Now, in terms of the president even being able to talk to other leaders being comfortable in talking to the president consulting people to talk. I mean, what the left is doing here is just atrocious. You want to speak on that very quickly, Daniel?
Well, it's what they've done from day one. David Horowitz has said multiple times that Trump never got a honeymoon period. He didn't just not get a honeymoon period after he took office. He did not even get any kind of grace period, anything while he was running for office. It was from even before he actually won an election, they were calling for his impeachment. So, of course, they've gone to impeachment. They were always going to go to impeachment because many of the really influential donors among the Democrats, including a guy named Tom Steyer, who launched his entire presidential bid around spending a whole bunch of money on what he called impeachment town halls, has been pushing for this nonstop. There's a slice. It's not the biggest slice of the Democrat Party, but it's some of the most active, the loudest, and the leftiest who have demanded impeachment. It's the one thing that they care about above all else. And for them, for their point of view, aside from just waging war on President Trump, it splits the country, divides people, radicalizes everybody, and that's what they want. They want to tear apart the country, as you mentioned earlier, and impeachment is a fantastic way to do that.
Absolutely. And so, look, when I sit back and I just look at this, you think, what's going on here? And Daniel, we think of the Khmer Rouge, we think of Maoist China and the Cultural Revolution, we think of Bolshevism and Stalinism. I think what's really happening here when we really take a look is, it's the utopian virus, and it began in the Garden of Eden, and the serpent's lie to Eve, and that lie that humans can become gods, that humans can make themselves social redeemers. I think it's escalating. I think that the infection of that virus in the United States is skyrocketing. It's accelerating. We know that the Democratic Party is now a communist party. I think what really this is all about is that Obama was destroying the United States and trying to build communism, and the left simply cannot accept that somebody didn't get into office to finish off the job for him, and they're in a rage that Trump is in their way, because what they want to do is build communism.
That's exactly right. What the left wants above all else is power. To quote from George Orwell's 1984, the purpose of power is power. They're obsessed with power above all else, and power is their religion. They don't have a religion in the sense of believing in God or a Bible. Their religion is their conviction that they were put on earth to save the planet from mankind, to exercise and wield complete power over all human society, and as you mentioned, remake society along utopian lines. Which very much means that this is their religion. They believe that they can actually save or damn mankind through their politics. Anything that blocks their politics is the ultimate evil, and any tactics whatsoever, death squads, executions, gulags, repression are absolutely justified in destroying anybody who stands between them, because they're the ones who are actually on a mission to save the world. Everybody else must be destroyed or forced to submit. There's a religion we might have actually heard of that has a similar point of view in this regard. This is really what we're up against. This is a political terror, and it's actually only beginning. It's going to get much worse from here, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed. Daniel Greenfield, thank you so much for joining the Glazov Gang.
My pleasure, my honor. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. Everybody, go to Daniel Greenfield's blog, The Point, at frontpagemag.com. And also, don't forget, we're a fan-generated program, so if you like what we do, please go to jamieglazoff.com to support the show. Make sure also that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel of the Glazov Gang and press the little bell right beside the subscription button so you get our notifications right away. We'll see you real soon. Good night.